Michigan beat Wisconsin 24-10. It could have been a heck of a lot of a different game if a couple of their things went right. Second game in a row. Let's talk about it right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Saturday. We are doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. I am driving home from the game. And like I said, for those who are watching, you can see that I'm in the car. And we're going to try to do some of these when it's light out. It's going to be kind of hard when it's dark out, which might just be kind of the last third of the season, right, of the home games, because it'll be dark out by the time that we get to the Ohio State game. But we're going to talk about the game day of as much as we can on the way home. I got a 40-minute drive, so kind of makes sense. So let's start. First off, thank you to all of our everydayers. Thank you for making us your first listen. We do appreciate all of that. Let's start with the offense. We'll go defense and just kind of general thoughts. I think that's fair. Offense. Finally, you saw what happens. I gotta not to kind of share the inner workings of things, but I gotta check a text from Jack Tuttle in the third quarter that said, see what happens when you start trying to get your good players the ball. I mean, he's not wrong. Offense was stuck in the mud for the first half. I don't really know what they were trying to do. Bryce had attempted 8 passes. He was 6 for 8 in the first half. A lot of those were horizontal. They ran the ball pretty good. The joke on the sideline with me and some of the other photographers was Michigan's really good at getting 9 yards in 3 downs. But when it came to the whole set of downs, they couldn't get more than that, right? They were getting to the 4th and 1 just kind of over and over again, minus the one big play by Justice. But then the run game eventually got going kind of, overall. Justice Haynes had the 43-yard run. But he still had, I think, 117 yards if memory serves. Excellent job by him. Jordan Marshall with another 40. They got 175-ish yards. Again, I'm driving. I'm not looking at a stat sheet for anyone who's like, you're not saying the stats. You're just unprepared. Well, I'm driving. So, and I never had the stats really in front of me. So the fact that I memorized what I did is, or at least remember the general, is pretty much good enough. Yeah, I thought the run game, I mean, they had more rushing yards in the first half than Wisconsin had given up all season. Didn't quite get to that 200 mark, but 175, pretty darn close. And then the pass game obviously came alive, and it was kind of surprising it took them that long to kind of decide to unleash Bryce a little bit. I don't really know what they were doing in the first half. I mean, there's that. I don't really know what they were doing. Still a few drops in this game. A couple errant passes, but mostly a couple drops. Bryce Underwood, 68% passing, 270 yards and a touchdown. You love to see it. 100 and something yards as well for Donovan McCulley, who had his first real breakout game as a Wolverine. And Andrew Marsh, 4 catches for 80 yards. We didn't really see a heck of a lot of Channing Goodwin. We did see Samaj Morgan. He was up and down. He had his moments where he definitely was down. And then he had moments that felt like, I kept on getting text from some of you that have the ability to text me, who were saying, I'm done with Samaj. I'm done. Or, hey, there's people that are that's all they're doing on Twitter is complaining about Samaj. Shout out to Steve Day, shout out to Josiah, shout out to Michael Wolf on those. But it's just kind of funny because as soon as I was getting those texts, Samaj started making some plays. So good on him for that. Like I said, we didn't really see a lot of Channing Goodwin this game. Andrew Marsh seems to have usurped him at this point. And I think that you saw a bit of what he can do, and it's good to get him going because you're going to need him. But Bryce continues to be Bryce. Didn't run a lot. Didn't really have the room to run. Wisconsin seemed well prepared to be able to handle the quarterback run. Back to the run game. I mean, I got to mention, because I think I failed to do so, Justice Haynes with his 5th straight 100-plus yard game for Michigan. That, I mean, it was already a record going into 4. Like, I just want to keep seeing that going. He should be able to get there again next week against USC. Because USC has not been exactly great at stopping the run. Hence, I tweeted last week during the game, Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall have to be salivating, which a bunch of Ohio State fans took for some reason to think it was about them. Listening to Carly Simon songs a little too much, I guess. But that just seems like that's going to continue until morale improves. I don't know how else to put it. But I think to see Bryce get there to 270, just kind of inching up, you hope that, the 2 road games haven't had as much. I'll be curious to see, and I won't be there, just so you know, I'm not going to USC. I'll be curious to see just the fan breakdown. If it's a very pro-Michigan fan, it's a sold-out game, and I would expect, though, that it will be a very pro-Michigan. I don't know if it'll be half and half, but, very well could be. I've seen that different places. Maryland, I know USC's bigger than Maryland, but USC's kind of been wandering through the desert for some time here. So I'm not really sure, but so I say all that because you want to see Bryce be able to do what he did today on the road. And I think it was a good strategy to target Donovan McCulley more and to target Andrew Marsh more. Because as much as you want him to go through progressions and everything, I think you need to have those guys, if you're Michigan, where you say, okay, we need to get the ball in those guys' hands. Right? Like, you see that pretty much anywhere else, right? Like, Ohio State, you say that about 2 different receivers, in Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. You look at, Alabama, the Alabama Vanderbilt game on here as I started the drive. You say that about Ryan Williams over there, or, even running back Jeremy Bernard, who scored their last touchdown. I don't know why I'm sharing that part. But, you start to, you look around and usually you say, that you just want to go have your guys that you say, that's going to be a guy that's going to be able to go and do it. And Michigan's had that when it's come to running the football for years, right? Like, you would say, that was the case, obviously, with Blake Corum, right? It's like, hey, you need 3 yards, Blake Corum's going to get you 4. Hassan Haskins in 2021, kind of the same deal. You need to be able to find that with wide receivers. And it's been kind of confusing that, a lot of these times it's like, I don't know for sure because I can't see right. I'm following the quarterback, but then when it's an incomplete pass or, Bryce rolls out, he's going through his reads or whatever, and then it just seems like, Don McCulley is running back to the sideline. There's no one else around him. So it makes you sit there and wonder, was Don McCulley open down by the end zone? And usually when I confer with another photographer or two, they tend to be like, yeah, that's the case. So to be able to kind of find that, I think is very important, to be able to have a couple guys that you can go to. And I think that today could be the start of it. And I think that while everything was stuck in the mud, in the first half, they found a way. So let's get into the defense. But before we get into the defense, I do want to kind of talk about the ebb and flow of the game first. And I don't know that I have a ton of defensive thoughts, but I do have some defensive thoughts. So we'll get to those here in just a moment. But before we do, it is the weekend. We just saw Michigan do it, and it's time to look back on just what happened a few hours ago against Wisconsin. And crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash, just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks. That's today. Saving more every time that you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. I'm going to go with Donovan McCulley. He had a couple circus catches. You finally saw what you thought that Michigan pass game could be. And whether it was his touchdown with the yards after the catch, the big play where he went and aired and got it coming towards the north end zone, or the one that was reviewed going from out of bounds, he made it happen. When the pressure was on, McCulley came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, his performance, it wasn't a fluke because you knew that this was eventually coming. That's why they got him from Indiana. And just like Donovan McCulley delivered for Michigan, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order today. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right, we're going to keep going here in just a moment. But before we do, if I can get things to click. Always takes a second here. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The thing I love about FanDuel is it gives you so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed live lines during games. Judging that I was wrong about Michigan covering and having the over, don't take my advice as far as that actual betting goes. But it makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding in on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, so let's get into the ebbs and flow of the game. Michigan wins 24-10. Got a note, because this is kind of a good bridge between offense and defense. Michigan 7.2 yards per play. Wisconsin 4.4 yards per play, if memory serves. And yet Michigan won by 14. Yeah, they could have scored that touchdown at the very end. Sherrone said that and said we decided to be gentlemanly, but at the same time, game could have been over a couple snaps before then, so I'm kind of not sure why he decided to, what made him decide to kind of try to score a touchdown for a minute before they didn't. Maybe trying to make good on the spread for some people, I guess. 17.5. But obviously they had a lot of missed opportunities, missed field goals. The turnover on downs with the fumbled snap. They got in the red zone. They were 3 for 5 in the red zone in this game. So that's something they got to clean up. Not settling for field goal attempts. They got to figure that out. That's long been a problem for Michigan here and there, right? Like, we've seen a lot of Michigan teams where you're like, guys, like, can't be settling for field goals. But the good news is you don't have to, like, look at this. You can't transitive property anything, right? I predicted 42-13 as being the final score in this game, and it ended up being 24-10. So way off. Been way off kind of in my predictions all year. Predicted much closer games in Central Michigan, or then predicted blowouts in the other 3. So it's kind of funny how things don't really go to type all the time. But you never know what you're going to get in a given Saturday. I mean, as I speak, maybe things will change, but as I speak, Penn State, last I checked, which was about 10 minutes ago, or I guess 15 minutes ago before I started this, before I got on the expressway, Penn State was down 27-7 at UCLA, who I have at the very bottom of my power rankings. So that's not great, right? So with that, it's, you can't really project any, what happened in this game or what happened in the last game. We have 2 games in a row where Michigan really controlled the game in pretty much all phases, and yet only won by I shouldn't say only one, but won by a margin that should have been much higher. They certainly had opportunities, whether it was settling for the field goal, missing the 2 other opportunities in the red zone, and I believe there was one other there. But so they had their opportunities. But let's talk defense. I had the same reaction to watching Wisconsin drive the field in the first drive of the game as I did watching Nebraska do it, which was, that's their script. Michigan will adjust. They're doing a lot of these kind of either delayed handoffs, misdirection type of things. I mean, their running back was very good and very kind of squirrely. And, they kind of found ways to catch Michigan off guard. I was pretty confident that they were going to figure out how to fix that, and they did. Didn't necessarily do quick game to keep Michigan off guard, right? But certainly, I mean, they'd used it a little bit, just a tiny bit. Obviously, no tempo. Wisconsin plays, as Connor mentioned, the slowest in the nation. But they definitely did a lot of moving pockets, a lot of little things against when Michigan looked to be in zone to kind of get their guys in space. And before McCauley and March started coming on, I just remember feeling very envious of Wisconsin's receiving corps, because they were coming down with everything in kind of a way that we weren't seeing Michigan guys come down with the ball. So I thought that they played very well kind of throughout, but it really was the defense really adjusted and didn't really feel like Wink was, again, I'd have to rewatch the game, but in real time, it didn't feel like Wink was bringing the house very often. It kind of felt like yeah, we're going to back off the blitz. And remember, he does a lot of disguise blitzes. He does a lot of, where it's like, he's still bringing 4. There are a couple times I noticed he was bringing 5. And, but for the most part, I felt like this was a type of game where they said, we just need to keep everything in front of us. That might have been an adjustment. And Wisconsin, I think, really wanted to try to run the ball, and they were obviously very effective at doing it in the first drive. So I thought it was great to see the adjustments. A lot of young players in this game. A lot of young players. We continue to see guys who are, there were times where there were 3 or 4. I might be misremembering things. 3 or 4 freshman defensive backs out on the field at one time in meaningful play. Kind of a little bit more late though. But I mean, we started seeing a bit more Jordan Young. Didn't seem like there was anything wrong with TJ Metcalf, but we started seeing more Jordan Young kind of play that nickel position. We saw him in the first half. Later in the game, we saw, we didn't see obviously in this game as much Jaden Sanders with Zeke Berry returning, who, by the way, Zeke Berry had an incredible game. Zeke Berry, Brandyn Hillman, they were excellent. Didn't really notice the pass rush that much, but again, that was in large part to a mixture of Wisconsin, the way that it was running the passing game, and obviously the fact that they just refused to call holding. I just saw it so much in this game. Just arm bars, fistfuls of jerseys, it's when the Wisconsin quarterback, 15, can't remember his name offhand because we didn't expect him to play. Which, by the way, TJ Metcalf said after the game that Michigan did not prepare for this guy. They thought it was going to be Danny O'Neal. That's what they thought. We thought it was going to be Danny O'Neal or Billy Edwards, and it was neither. So that's the type of thing where, you kind of question a little bit about the preparation, but at the same time, who would have thought, as Danny O'Neal came in for a couple snaps here and there, seemed like he was able to go, but then they opted to not go with him. So it's kind of a curveball. Maybe it was Luke Fickell's way of trying to say, I got to find a way to win somehow, and this is going to be how I do it, is by completely catching him off guard. That happens, right? And, hard enough to prepare for 2 other guys, and then you get a third guy who's got experience as a transfer from some directional Illinois FCS school, if memory serves. I'm going to keep saying if memory serves because I don't know. We're not necessarily researching everything that comes out of my mouth before we say it on this show. You're getting my thoughts in real time. So, but nonetheless, they really shut things down after the first drive. And, they had some success on a couple other drives, holding them to a field goal late. Pretty good. Would love to buy a holding call at some point. And, maybe it will just come in a key moment. Maybe, maybe does it come against Ohio State? Does it come next week against USC? I don't know. But there were just so many times that you saw these egregious holdings not get called. On the other side, there was a face mask that every single person in the area that in the southeast corner of the end zone that I was in the moment. Everyone around me, behind me, to the side of me, all saw a face mask, and yet the refs looking right at it and didn't see it. I don't get it. So, nonetheless, Michigan was not very heavily penalized in this game, so that's fine. They had the one holding call on Max Bredesen. I have no opinion on it because I didn't really see the replay of it, and I didn't see it in real time. But otherwise, pretty well disciplined. And I thought the defense, again, secondary for the most part, very good. Man, I got to tell you, I got chills when Rod Moore got that interception. Absolute chills. Because you know how hard that guy has worked to come back and how long he's waited for that moment. And, he was a ball hawk before, and he came from seemingly out of nowhere as I'm looking through my long lens, well down the field, well down the sideline. And before you know it, Rod Moore comes down with it. I just jumping into frame, as if from out of nowhere. Because I'm looking at it, I'm seeing this guy streaking. I can't tell if the ball's, thrown right, over or underthrown yet. But it kind of feels like, man, he's streaking, he's open. And for Rod to come and get that, I got to imagine a lot of you had goosebumps too, seeing that. So good on him. But defense, I think we've just kind of learned the last few weeks. They have problems against those scripted drives, but then they figure things out. It's been kind of a trend. Even Central Michigan, I believe, moved the ball a bit. I think they moved the ball on that first drive, and then after that, really no more. Only one sack in this game. That was courtesy of Derek Moore. Timely. That's what forced the field goal attempt. So timely to be able to get that. But otherwise, they found ways to neutralize. It'll be interesting to see what some other teams do going forward. So let's speak of Michigan going forward and other thoughts on the game. Let's do that here in just a moment. All right, we'll continue on here in just a moment, but before we do, Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools to help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every step safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without even missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level every single week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, let's finish up here. Again, buoyed by the effort. Yeah, you would have liked a more lopsided score. It wasn't as dominant in the trenches in the same way that it was against Nebraska. But they found things that we were hoping they would find. And again, they could have made it 31 to 10. They could have. And a couple other plays go right. It certainly could have been a much more lopsided game. So that's kind of, they're right there. That's what I see right now, is a team that is right on the cusp and of being able to just completely shut down their opposition. They still feel like they're lacking a killer instinct. That's not great because better teams will hang on. Next 2 weeks, USC and Washington, you better find a killer instinct. I do think Michigan will be able to have their way in the trenches in both of those games, but you better figure things out in order to be able to keep yourself from being where another team can stay within striking distance and then make you pay for it, right? So I will be interested to see if in either of those games or Michigan State, who last I checked 25 minutes ago was down 14-7 to Nebraska. Again, I give you these score updates as if you're watching in real time. You're not. y'all watching or listening to this probably will know what the outcome of all of these games that are going on right now are as it is. But I think that they're right there. These are small things that need to get cleaned up. The first half had way too many 3-and-outs where they get down to that one, 4th and 1 to go. They got to figure out how to strain and get that 10. The second half they did. They ended up being 5 for 12 on 3rd down compared to 4 of 15, I think it was, for Wisconsin. And a lot of those, I would bet, came either on the first drive or the last drive for Wisconsin, I would think. So you're looking at, the competition's still ongoing at wide receiver, but I think you've got your 3 now. Samaj, he is who he is at this point. At times he's going to make plays, and at times he's going to do things that are going to frustrate you. But he has a lot of potential if he could find a way to be consistent. I'll be curious to see if we see more Channing Goodwin down the line, but I can't recall any passes going his way at all this game. It was Donovan McCulley and Andrew Marsh for the most part. Then you dropped by Max Bredesen, who had a clear first down, that ended the drive, and then the one to Kendrick Bell that hit him in the hands. So, and would have also been a first down. They've got to find ways to finish, right? You get the ball to begin the second half, you drive the field, you don't come away with points. It's fine against this team. This is why transitive property isn't a thing. It's fine against the team they played today. Might not be fine against a couple other teams on that schedule. But good effort by Michigan. You feel like you can see where things are going. Bryce getting better yet again. Career day in so many different facets. Yards, tied a touchdown in a game, which is just one in terms of passing. Passer rating was like 160 something. That was the highest that he's had all year. Completion percentage, 68%, is the highest he's had all year. So you see things moving in the right direction. And to have that against Wisconsin and not New Mexico or Central Michigan is very good news for the future. Shows, okay, Wisconsin's got a very good defense. To be able to, again, we talked about the paper tiger of it all when it comes to the Wisconsin defense, run-wise. Well, Michigan being able to run the football the way they did, that's pretty great. Right? Like to get 175 or whatever yards it was, I think it was 175 and then 270 passing, 455 or whatever it was yards total, or 420. I don't remember exactly, and I'm not doing math well. I'm staring at brake lights ahead of me right here. I think that to take that step against a defense like that, regardless if it's still not complete vintage Wisconsin, I think that's a really good move in the right direction. And the way it is this season, you just need to take every game this has never been more true. The old Jim Harbaugh, we take one game at a time, has never been more true than it is for this team. Right? You say, okay, they got the win, could have been better. You attack the next week. But they found something. Again. Much like they found something with Biff Poggi in the Central Michigan game and just were explosive constantly. They found something. And I think now we've got 5 games of Justice Haynes getting over 100 yards. I don't care, for the people who say, well, yeah, a lot of these are explosive plays and, 75-yard touchdowns, or today the 43-yard scamper. He's doing out long plays. Okay, but that's a consistent thing at this point. So that's a good thing. And so you're probably going to get that from him. You know that Donovan McCulley is, for all the Nico Collins comparisons, he looked an awful lot like him today. Andrew Marsh, now he knows I can go up against Wisconsin. Andrew Marsh today felt like Roman Wilson in 2021 against Wisconsin. Now, Roman Wilson got hurt in that game. We didn't see him again, I don't think, until Penn State later in the year. But you've got two receivers you feel good about. You got a running back you feel good about. You got a quarterback you feel good about. Offensive line did a good job, allowed 1 sack. Generally, Bryce had time. Running the football, I think they did a really good job as much as they can with the fact that Wisconsin scrapes their linebackers so heavily to really try to take away that run. Like my only real gripe here is the lack of killer instinct and making those mistakes that make it so the score is 24-10 instead of being 44-10, because it very well could have been. And this in a game where Michigan it felt stuck in the mud for a half offensively. So that's great. All right, you've carried me through for my entire US 23 experience from Ann Arbor to Fenton. So that's going to do it as I am about to get off the expressway. Thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you for listening. We will be back on Monday. Peace.